the 5th year in succession, the FIA Karting European Championships come to Italy for the culmination of the European campaign in the KZ categories. The venue for 2024's finale, Kartodromo Val Vibrata, near the town of Teramo in the region of Abruzzo. With this region's history as fascinating as it is long, what better place for drivers representing more than 25 nations across the KZ, KZ2 and KZ2 Masters categories to finish their quests for glory in this year's FIA Karting European Championships. Across the paddock, 163 drivers have descended on Val Vibrata to battle it out on track to either continue positive form seen in the championship's first round in Spain, or bounce back to finish the season strongly without the pressures of championship honours at stake. After close racing throughout the season opener, all 3 European titles remain up for grabs here in Val Vibrata. Coupled with the entry lists boasting many a former or current holder of an FIA karting title, the action promises to be as hot as the weather along the Adriatic coast. For this track, it's a welcome return for FIA Karting to Val Vibrata. Round 2 for this year's KZ, KZ2 and KZ2 Masters Championships marks the first time a European Championship event has been held here since 2008. All the more reason for all competitors to give it 100% for the second and final round of these 2024 FIA Karting European Championships. Let's take a lap with reigning FIA Karting European champion Danilo Albanese. The lap starts with heavy braking into turn 1, a right-hander that opens on the exit, giving drivers a key opportunity for overtakes into turn 2. One of 3 hairpins around this 1.286km circuit, it's immediately followed by another one of those hairpins, the tight turn 3, where drivers look for a late apex to maximise the run towards turn 4. The skill of both mechanic and driver are tested through here, as turn 4 immediately flows into turn 5, right then left, before a further handling test is presented with turn 6. Downhill into the newest section here in Val Vibrata. Turn 7 is another difficult right-hander that tightens on the exit. Drivers then switch to the right-hand side to prepare for turn 8, the exit from this corner. Key to setting the kart correctly for the small lift past the mechanics gallery through turn 9. From there it is flat out through turn 10. Lap times expected sub 49 seconds. It's a busy lap for the drivers in Italy. The new KZ2 Masters FIA Karting European Championship sprang into life at Motorland Aragon, with 34 drivers looking to start their seasons well. Italy's Davide Fori and Anthony Abbas of France headed the charge to see who would take a historic win, with the Frenchman emerging on top to take P1 and the championship lead ahead of Fori and Christian Habelin. Qualifying practice in Italy was a display of domination from the home favourites, with Mirko Mizioni the first of 4 Italian drivers on top. After 3 rounds of qualifying heats and the superheat, Fori held the championship lead over Abbas, but only by 2 points. Mizioni started the final on pole from Riccardo Nalon in second, who still had an outside chance at the title. Fori was well positioned, knowing finishing 3rd and ahead of Abbas would make him champion. Lights out for the second final of the year, with Mizioni and Nalon side by side into the first corner. Behind, however, the drama would immediately begin, as contact involving Fori and Habelin would result in both off to drivers left. Running into the grass was a disaster for the championship leader, relegated down from his 3rd place on the grid and crucially no longer in front of Abbas. Within a matter of seconds, the championship title was out of the Italians' hands. End of the first lap and the running order had well and truly been turned on its head. Mizioni still led from the fast starting pair of Antonio Piccioni and Andrea Spagni. The interest though was behind in 4th. Riccardo Nalon was now Abbas's closest rival for the title, and he went on the attack for 3rd. Abbas, who'd fallen to 7th, responded with a move of his own. The race was on between Nalon and Abbas, who could gain the most places relative to one another. Sadly, the chance to become the first KZ2 Masters FIA Karting European champion was over for Davide Fori. He retired at the end of lap 5. The multiple-time world champion would need a miracle out on track to somehow retain the points lead, but it wasn't to be. Lap 7 and the battle at the front was tightening. Nalon still in a position where for the championship, he needed more. Needing those points, he went for the move on Piccioni for 2nd place into turn 2. The resultant bunching of the pack, though, was good news for his title rival Abbas, who by this stage was back up to where he'd started in 5th. and was gaining an increasing number of points. The advantage for Abbas was now 9 points over Nalon. It looked more and more like it was the Saudi kart driver's title to lose. More drama was to come though, as Mirko Mizioni's fantastic weekend would end in retirement on lap 9. The final proving one race too far for his machinery, having been no lower than 4th through every single race of the round. It was a truly gutting end for another of the Italian favourites and for those cheering in the stands. Nalon was now race leader and doing all he could. Unfortunately for him, Abbas was also racing strong, now up to 4th. But racing can be a strange game at times, and with Nalon needing an act of the sporting gods, perhaps he got one in the middle of the final. Abbas's move on Spagni for 3rd place, a position he did not necessarily need for the championship, would go under investigation. Suddenly the title was back on for Nalon, unless Abbas could sufficiently get up the road to negate any potential post-race penalty. With Nalon looking set to score maximum points from the final, the mission for Abbas was now to be classified in the top 5. Elsewhere in the top 10, Alessio Lamattina found no grip on the outside through turn 2, losing out in the battle for the top 5. Ennio Gandolfi's day sadly ended on lap 12. Returning to the driver's seat after 20 years away, Gandolfi had at least scored championship points through the superheats. Latter stages of the race and Nalon continued to lead. If he couldn't win the championship, a home victory looked to be in his hands, with a 1.3 second advantage over Piccioni, with Abbas focusing on keeping the pace high. Abbas knew 3rd place without any penalties would be more than enough, but with the likes of Spagni and Profico not too far behind, pulling a recovering Habulin along in the slipstream, that top 5 spot Abbas needed was by no means a certainty. Nalon would take the checkered flag. A brilliantly constructed round by the Italian, he'd emerged victorious in a final filled with drama at every turn, and with the fastest lap of the race took a maximum 51 points on offer. Having narrowly missed out on the podium the last 2 years at the International Super Cup, he could savour his triumphant moment on home soil, whether or not he was European champion. However, there was indeed more drama to come. Abbas, over the line in 3rd, would receive a 10-second post-race time penalty, dropping the Frenchman to 7th, a drop that would see the destination of the championship change. The confirmed result then for KZ2 Masters in Italy, and a truly magnificent performance from the Italians. Nalon from Piccioni, Spagni and Profico in the top 4, Habulin recovered to 5th, perhaps thinking of what might have been. Val Vibrata showcased the competitive nature and bright future for the KZ2 Masters category, with 3 different teams on the podium. The biggest smile though was Riccardo Nalon's. He'd entered the weekend 5th in the standings, but emerged as round winner and champion.
Diciamo che il fine settimana è partito molto bene.
I'd say we started the weekend very well. From qualifying practice, we set the 2nd fastest time. The heats were the same. I did quite well. We went for a setup change to refine everything for the final. You always hope for a good performance, but this time we outdid ourselves and managed to conclude a beautiful weekend with a sensational victory.
Concludere un bellissimo fine settimana con una vittoria strepitosa.
We start with one of the fastest lap of the session, and the problem started in qualifying. I broke my engine during the fastest lap. In the final I start really fast, and when I want to try to pass Mizzoni, I have the problem with gearbox, and Riccardo immediately passed me, and after I need only to push for rest in this situation and don't increase the gap. The fact is that Riccardo today is really fast, and I can't be nothing.
I'm very happy with the results because I did not believe I could be on the podium. Not with the opponents I had in front of me. I hoped and tried until the end. Unfortunately, in the superheat, I had a penalty. However, it went well, and the fact that I still managed to get 3rd makes me very happy and makes me appreciate the weekend even more. Little by little, we managed to stay at the top, and we ended with a beautiful victory. Great pace in the final, we managed to get a good gap and secure the victory. It was a really fantastic way to end the championship like this. It was beautiful, really beautiful.
Così è stato bellissimo, davvero bello.
The largest category amongst the three, the KZ2 title proves to be one of the toughest to win in the sport. With over 90 drivers looking to race through to each final, it was the 2023 runner-up Daniel Vasile who took the top spot in Spain. He didn't, however, head to Italy with the standings lead. Matteo Spirgel's consistency at Motorland Aragon meant the French driver headed into Val Vibrata with a 6-point advantage. By the time the finalists received their medals for making it through to the final of 36, Spirgel's lead had grown from 6 points to 24. Maksim Orlov started on pole with a very slim chance in the championship, with Marcus Kayak for company on the front row. Spirgel, third on the grid, knew fifth or higher would give him the title. Starts are always key in KZ2, and for Marcus Kayak it was a bad one. Marek Skrivan took advantage to squeeze through past the Maranello kart and challenged Spirgel for second. Turn 2 would be an even tighter affair, with Spirgel into the back of Orlov. Orlov wide with Skrivan, whilst everyone else tried to find a way through. Tim Lucati would not be so lucky, out of contention on lap 1, having started on the 16th row of the grid. Spirgel led, but quickly would find himself under investigation for the start, whilst closest adversary Vasile was on the move. For Alessio Piccini, fourth in the early stages were as good as it got. An unfortunate spin put an end to the hopes of the driver who'd been fastest in qualifying practice earlier in the weekend. Lap 2 and CRG's Andrea Dali would become the first official retirements from the final. Spirgel continued to lead by lap 5, knowing field spread was likely to be his best friend whilst under investigation. Orlov had held second place ahead of Vasile. It was the three drivers with a chance of the title clear of the rest. Kasper Schurmans had started 8th and was soon setting about moving past Kayak for 4th. The tightest of moments for Kayak, the Estonian going round and eventually retirement from the race. A real shame for the Maranello driver, who'd hoped for much better after taking multiple heat wins earlier on in the weekend. Matteo Zanchi also had issues through turn 9 in the first half of the race, the final proving once again to be a battle to survive for those in the midfield. Meanwhile, back at the front, Orlov was over a second clear of Vasile and starting to give race and championship leader Spirgel problems. Those problems weren't as big as the ones for his teammate Anatoly Khavalkin. A high speed off into turn 4 before the halfway point of the final saw the number 151 out of the race. Most importantly though, Khavalkin was able to walk away. Lucati withdrew from proceedings next at the end of the 10th lap, unable to recover from the earlier spin. There were better times for his CPB Sport teammate Kasper Schurmans, who'd found a way past Vasile for third. This was a good piece of news for the race leader. With Vasile off the podium, the job at hand for Spirgel's title shot was now easy. Into the second half of the race, and Alessio Scabini became the next retirement on lap number 12. Before Miguel Costa's race ended 8 laps from the end. The round had seen an improvement for the Brazilian, who missed the final in Spain, but it was still not the results he'd wanted. The attrition in the final continued at pace. Germany's Maxi Schleimer was next to fall in a final that saw 9 drivers fail to take the checkered flag. The top 2 had built a healthy lead. Orlov struck on lap 20, Spirgel happy not to fight, knowing he had a good buffer to cover any eventualities from the investigation, which concluded in the end with no further action. Baparo agonisingly stopped on track with 2 laps to go. But it was Orlov who brought it home to take victory in Italy, with an impeccable unbeaten record through all 5 qualifying heats and the superheat. He also took the fastest lap in the final, meaning Orlov had scored every single championship point on offer from the round. For CPB Sport and Matteo Spirgel, it was job done. Second place ahead of Vasile meant he was the 2024 FIA Karting European Champion in KZ2. And joined on the podium by teammate Kasper Schurmans, it saw the completion of a magnificent job from the French team to turn around the deficit they'd had to Birol ART 12 months ago. After a difficult start to the season in Spain, Maksim Orlov finished the European Championship with a flourish and third in the standings. Could a push for the world title be next? The final result in KZ2. Orlov from the new KZ2 European champion Spirgel. Schurmans makes it 2 CPB Sports Sodis on the podium, whilst Vasile has to settle for 4th and runner-up in the championship for a second year in a row. Morgado races home in the top 5 ahead of Nonblanc, Skrivan, Kutsov, Leopardi and Batuka. The attentions of many of KZ2's field will turn to Portimao in the World Championship in October, but not before the top three celebrate their success at Val Vibrata. Matteo Spirgel has proven that consistency was the key through this KZ2 campaign. Never out of the top three at any points awarding stage, a deserving champion.
I just thinking about the final. I need to win, and let's see how things in the championship. So yeah, P3 it's anyways a good result for us, because the first round of the European Championship we lose, because in the qualifying heats and super heats we lose for sure. Only the final was quite okay, P3. So yeah, I'm so happy about this result, about this weekend. So yeah, I want to say thanks to Gabriele, to my team Modern Kart and my engineers Galifa.
Yeah, in the final I managed to take a really nice start. I was leading a big part of the race, but at the end Orlov was faster than me. So I decided to open the door, because we have to don't forget that we play the championship. So yeah, I saved the P2 and win the championship.
It was a really good race, and also the heats. First heat unfortunately didn't go our way, but for the rest we just said we go for it, and we'll see how it goes. And yeah, we finished every race in the top three, a heat win as well. The pace was really strong this weekend, so yeah, I'm happy for the team that we also won the championship, and also for Matteo because he won, and just happy we could finish on the podium, especially in my first year in KZ.
I'm very happy for myself and for the team, because in the end everyone was fine. We're sorry we weren't able to win the European title. We are happy for Max though. However, in the end, Alcaraz was the key, let's say.
La chiave, diciamo.
The KZ category kicked off their campaign in the searing heat of the Spanish desert, with all eyes on former world champion Victor Gustafsson and 2023 frontrunner Senna van Walstein to see who would take first blood in 2024. With the Dutchman taking the first final, Van Walstein once again, like he did in 2023, headed to Italy leading the standings, this time by 10 points over Gustafsson. KZ is by nature predictably unpredictable though. Through the heats, Van Walstein was 8th, Gustafsson 5th. The gap now only 2 points. Lorenzo Travisanutto would be on home soil pole and back in championship contention. Joined by David Trefilov on the front row, Lorenzo Camplesi would go from 3rd. Off the start, it was a superb getaway for Trefilov. Travisanutto bogging down off the line, allowing Camplesi to get down the inside, whilst Adrian Renaudin's race would end before it had truly begun, not going past turn 1. A strong start for Gustafsson came undone at turn 2, the Swede running deep and losing a number of positions, whilst title rivals Van Walstein and Travisanutto both found themselves with work to do. 2022 European champion Paolo Ippolito's day would also end on lap 1. Having been so strong at this stage of the season in recent times, the round for the Kart Republic Works team had not been what they'd expected. Ippolito out, and reigning champion Albanese seemingly fighting for the minor placings. Like KZ2, the early stages saw several retirements. Renaudin, Leonardo Pelozzi and Riccardo Longhi would join Ippolito on the sidelines. With the race into its rhythm, the title picture began to emerge. Travisanutto, running 3rd, was now the standings leader by the slimmest of margins. Every move would count, and hearts were in mouths when Pedro Hiltbrand attacked into turn 1. Van Walstein and Gustafsson went wheel to wheel once more, with a daring move from the Dutchman round the outside of turn 2 that he made work for 5th place. A crucial swing in the points, but still a long way to go. For Gustafsson, it was time to rebuild. With more than 20 laps to go, he was now down in 7th place. Trefilov was putting on a show, 1.4 clear of Camplesi. He was in full control, not having to worry about championship permutations. An incident between Stan Pex and Giuseppe Palomba would see both of them out of contention on lap 7. A disappointing end for two drivers who'd scored well in Spain. They would fall down the championship standings. It was a tough final for past FIA Karting champions. 2020 World Champion Jeremy Iglesias would bow out before the halfway point, ending this year's hopes of that elusive European title, as would Stan Pex after his earlier issue. Back out on track, Travisanutto was assessing the situation behind Camplesi, whose second place would mean 6 more points in the championship. A tally made even more important by Senna van Waalstein, now sitting 4th on the road. If Travisanutto could find a way through, he'd be tied on points again. And the move came on lap 17, a precise one down the inside. With Trefilov 1.5 seconds out front, the job was now clear for both Travisanutto and Van Waalstein. Hold position and set the fastest lap. Van Waalstein may well have been holding the fastest lap, but his bigger problem was trying to find a way past Camplesi whilst also holding off Pedro Hiltbrand. The battle for the podium would go on to the very end of the race. The three-way fight offered Travisanutto, though, the perfect opportunity to get his head down and drive flat out. 48.648 would see the Italian take the fastest lap bonus point away from his title rival. He now held that all-important 1-point lead. Travisanutto could not afford to ease off, however, knowing that Van Waalstein would at least go for the fastest lap again or try to get past Camplesi for 3rd. Try as he might, Van Waalstein simply could not find a way past an informed Camplesi. The pace he'd found from his Tony Kart during the superheat victory earlier in the day still very much there for what was an inspired drive. The laps ticked on by with no one able to match the race pace of David Trefilov, the German taking a superb victory all built from his lightning race start. And with Van Waalstein unable to wrestle either 3rd from Camplesi or retrieve the fastest lap point, Lorenzo Travisanutto became the 2024 FIA Karting European Champion in KZ by 1 single point. A scarcely believable finish to the championship. For Travisanutto, it was a 4th FIA Karting Championship, his first European title since 2019, and his first in the KZ category. The full results for the final in KZ. Trefilov brings home the win for Maranello by 1 second, ahead of the new KZ European champion Lorenzo Travisanutto and Lorenzo Camplesi. Senna van Waalstein finished 4th to take another step closer to the European title, up from 3rd to 2nd this year. A cheerful podium to finish with in Italy. For Camplesi and Trefilov, impressive turnarounds after testing times in Spain. But for Lorenzo Travisanutto, it's a historic championship, continuing the line of Italian winners of the European KZ title, now 4 in a row, and a first title for Parolin at this level, capping off an impressive campaign.
Yeah, the start was one of the important things of the race. I got it all good. I could have some gap and into the lead, and I think that that's why we won. I looked back a lot of times to check the distance to Lorenzo. To the end I saw him catching up on me. Got a little bit nervous, but in the end it was all good. Could keep the pace.
Mostly I would say I struggled quite a bit, unfortunately, because of the start. That made it a bit difficult, but then what allowed me to find pace was getting ahead of Camplesi. It was really difficult being that close for many laps, and as soon as I managed to pass him, I tried to push as hard as I can, but mostly because I thought Senna would be able to get to 3rd, and then I would have to win the race to try to win the championship. So my first thought was that I didn't think 2nd was enough. And I pushed as hard as I could for basically until the 2nd last lap. Then I had a massive lockup, front lockup going into turn 2, and I thought, okay, that's it. Like, that's all I can give. So I was obviously also checking behind, looking what was going on behind me, and I saw that Senna couldn't get ahead of Lorenzo, and therefore I thought, okay, I got a chance. And then it was just about hoping, pretty much.
Yeah, we work a lot from the Tuesday to today, Sunday, and after yesterday on the last heat, we improve a lot ourselves. And yeah, today I won the super heats, and for the final is the best is possible, still place.
Yeah, I think like David said, everything paid off. We worked so hard back in the factory on the chassis side and on the engine side, so we are quite happy winning on our engines and our chassis. Big thanks to Maranello Kart and TM for the great material, and yeah.
And so the 2024 edition of the FIA Karting European Championships for the KZ categories comes to a close. For KZ2 Masters, a successful first edition filled with passion and drama. Riccardo Nalon, your champion, showing exactly why in karting one never gives up the fight. For KZ2, the Sony Kart turnaround has delivered a first title in the category for several years, and the advancement of Matteo Spirgel as its latest champion. The big question being, what will the French driver go on to achieve next? And in KZ, the title stays in Italy as Lorenzo Travisanutto adds to his FIA Karting legacy, becoming the first driver to have both direct drive and gearbox European titles on their list of achievements in over a decade. The FIA Karting Championship does not end in Italy, however. Next stop, Portugal and the Cartodromo Internacional do Algarve. Portimao calls drivers to attention for the FIA Karting World Championship in October. We very much hope to see you there.